I'm moving into your apartment. 5 words, standing in her hallway, from a complete stranger. What would you do if someone took your home without asking, and you couldn't do anything to stop it? The elevator doors had opened just 60 seconds earlier. Ava Mitchell stepped onto the 6th floor smelling of antiseptic and exhaustion. 14 hours at Boston General, 2 emergencies, 1 missed lunch. Her scrub still carried the faint scent of disinfectant that no amount of soap ever fully washes away. She'd thought, just the couch, just sleep. But 4 men in black suits blocked the path to apartment 6A. Her apartment. They stood like a concrete wall, earpieces curled behind their ears. Clipboards rested in gloved hands. Cardboard boxes lined the hallway. None of them smiled. None of them moved when she approached. "Excuse me," Ava said, keeping her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. Silence. She tried to step forward. 1 man shifted left, another shifted right. The wall held. "I need to get through. This is my apartment." The elevator dinged behind her. A man stepped out. Tall, early 30s, with dark hair cut close and a face that gave nothing away. He wore a black bomber jacket, hands in his pockets, moving with the deliberate steps of someone who knew he was being watched, someone who expected it. His eyes found hers immediately. "Are you Ava Mitchell?" "Yes. Who are you?" He nodded once, as if confirming something already known. "Liam Romano, I'm the new tenant." Ava blinked. The words didn't connect. New tenant for what? He gestured to the door behind the guards. "This unit, 6A. Her stomach dropped. There must be a mistake. I've lived here for 2 years. Liam held out a folder, crisp, official, stamped with the building logo. Inside, a lease agreement bearing her address and a different name. Liam Romano. "Check your email," he said calmly. "Everything's there." Ava's fingers fumbled for her phone. She scrolled. Nothing in her inbox. She checked spam. There. Subject, important notice, unit reassignment, sent 4 days ago, buried where she'd never see it. "This can't be legal," she managed. The building changed ownership. Romano Group restructured the leases. "You've been relocated to 6C. His tone was matter-of-fact, not cruel, not apologetic, just certain. "Relocated?" Ava's voice rose. "Without my consent? Your belongings have been moved. The door is open." No explanation, no negotiation, just the quiet authority of someone used to getting what he wanted. Ava looked past him to the guards, to the boxes, to the magnetic lock being installed on what used to be her front door, and she understood. This wasn't a mistake. It was a takeover. "You can check 6C now if you'd like," Liam added, stepping aside just enough to let her pass. Ava walked past him, and the air between them hummed with something she couldn't name, something that felt less like coincidence and more like the beginning of a trap she hadn't seen coming. Ava's hands shook as she dialed the building manager. Mr. Lowell answered on the 3rd ring. "Ava, I was hoping you'd received my email." "Your email went to spam. I just found it." She kept her voice professional, controlled. "You can't just move me without notice." A long pause. "The building changed ownership 3 weeks ago," Mr. Lowell said carefully. "Romano Group acquired the property. Part of the transition included lease restructuring. I sent documentation explaining the reassignment." Documentation I never saw. Ava's jaw tightened. "Why didn't you call, knock on my door? Give me any real notice?" Silence. "Ava, he said quietly. I'm sorry, but this came from the top. I had no choice. Everyone has a choice. Not this time, please, don't make waves. This is beyond a simple lease dispute. The line went dead. Ava stared at her phone, beyond a simple lease dispute. She turned the key and pushed open the door to 6C. Her heart sank. The apartment was half the size of 6A. Her bed had been shoved against the window, blocking all natural light. There was no kitchen countertop, just an exposed sink with her suitcase perched on top of it like an afterthought. Boxes were stacked everywhere, floors, corners, walls. It looked like a storage closet, not a home. Ava set her bag down slowly, gripping the edge of a box to steady herself. A shadow filled the doorway. She turned. Liam stood there, no longer wearing the cold expression from before. Now his eyes held something different, something that read her exhaustion, her anger, her fear. Do you live alone? He asked quietly. Ava's spine straightened. That's not your concern. Liam glanced past her into the cramped space, then back to the hallway where his men were finishing the magnetic lock installation on 6A. Get some rest, he said. Lock your door. Then he was gone. Ava closed the door, engaged the deadbolt, leaned her forehead against the wood, and listened to the sounds outside. Metal sliding into place, bolts engaging, low voices discussing security protocols she didn't understand. She looked through the peephole. Industrial-grade locks, military precision, guards stationed like sentries. Who is he? And what kind of danger requires that level of protection? Ava spent the next 3 hours trying to make 6C feel less like a storage unit and more like a place where a human being could actually live. She moved the bed away from the window, not far, maybe 6 inches, but enough to let a sliver of light through. She unpacked 3 boxes, stacking books on a narrow shelf someone had installed at eye level. She found her coffee maker and set it up on the exposed counter next to the sink, right next to her suitcase, because there was literally nowhere else to put anything. Her hands moved on autopilot, the same efficiency she used during overnight shifts when she was running on pure muscle memory and caffeine. No thinking, no feeling, just task after task after task, until suddenly it was morning and she couldn't remember the night, just surviving. But her mind wouldn't stop racing. Romano Group, magnetic locks, security upgrades, don't make waves, much bigger. What did that even mean? At 8:30, she gave up on unpacking and opened her laptop. The screen's glow felt too bright in the dim apartment. She typed into the search bar with deliberate keystrokes, Romano Group, Boston, Massachusetts. The results loaded slowly. Her building's Wi-Fi had always been terrible. The first page was corporate, Romano Group Holdings, LLC, real estate acquisitions across New England, security consulting for high-profile clients, private investment portfolio diversified across technology and infrastructure sectors, professional website photos of office buildings and smiling executives who looked like they'd never had a genuine emotion in their lives. Nothing concrete. Nothing that explained armed guards and military-grade locks. Ava scrolled to the second page, then the third. On page 4, an article from 3 years ago caught her eye. Boston Globe, small piece buried in the business section. Federal investigation into Romano family business connections yields no charges. She clicked it. The article was brief, vague. It mentioned a federal investigation into possible organized crime connections related to Romano family business interests, witness interviews, subpoenaed records, months of investigation, but no charges filed, no evidence of wrongdoing, case closed due to insufficient evidence to proceed. Ava's chest tightened. She read the article twice, then a third time. Organized crime connections, federal investigation, no charges. That didn't mean innocent. That meant nothing could be proven. She closed the laptop with more force than necessary. At 9 o'clock, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy boots, multiple people. The sound of something being carried or installed. Ava pressed her ear to the door, pulse quickening. Perimeters clean. A man's voice, deep, authoritative, with a Boston accent. No movement on the east stairwell. Loading dock cameras been replaced. We've got full visual coverage now. What about the new tenant? That was Liam's voice, quieter, sharper, all business. Inside 6C, hasn't left since this afternoon. Curtains are drawn, lights on. Ava's breath caught. They were watching her, tracking her movements. Stationed someone on this floor overnight, Liam ordered. Rotating shifts. I want someone within 30 seconds of this unit at all times. No gaps in coverage. You think they'll make a move this quickly? I think they're always watching, and now they know we're here. A pause. Which means anyone on this floor could become collateral if they want to make a point. The voices faded as they moved down the hallway. Ava stepped back from the door, her heart hammering. Collateral, make a point, gaps in coverage. This wasn't about property management. This wasn't about corporate restructuring. Liam Romano wasn't just some businessman who needed privacy. He was running from something, or protecting himself from something, and he'd moved into her building, taken her apartment, because it gave him some kind of tactical advantage she couldn't understand. And now she was stuck on the same floor, living 30 feet away from whatever danger he'd brought with him. Every instinct Ava had developed over 6 years of nursing. The instinct that told her when a patient was about to crash, when a family member was about to become violent, when a situation was about to spiral out of control. That instinct was screaming at her now. Get out. Pack a bag, leave, go stay with Sarah from the hospital, go anywhere but here. But where would she go? Her lease was paid through the end of the year. 6 more months of rent she couldn't afford to lose. Her savings account had exactly $2,347. Enough for maybe 1 month of rent and security deposit somewhere else, but not enough to start over. Not in Boston, where a studio in a safe neighborhood started at $1,800 a month. And what would she tell her friends, her family, that she ran because a stranger moved in next door? That she abandoned her lease because she had a bad feeling? No one would understand. They'd think she was overreacting. They'd tell her to talk to building management, file a complaint, work through proper channels. But proper channels didn't work when the person taking your home owned the building. So Ava did what she always did when faced with impossible situations. She locked the door, checked it twice, wedged a chair under the doorknob for extra security, and tried to sleep in a bed that didn't feel like hers anymore, in an apartment that felt less like home and more like a cage. Outside, the city hummed with its usual nighttime symphony. Sirens, car horns, the distant bass from someone's stereo. Normal sounds, but inside 6C, the silence pressed down like a physical weight. and Ava couldn't shake the certainty that something was coming for her. Something she couldn't see yet. Something that moved in shadows and calculated collateral damage. Something that had followed Liam Romano to her door. If you're already hooked on this story, hit that subscribe button now, because this is just getting started and you won't want to miss what happens next. 2:47 in the morning. Ava woke to a sound that didn't belong. Click, click, click. At first, still caught in the fog of too little sleep and stress-heavy dreams, she thought it was pipes. Old buildings made noise, radiators clanked, water hammered through decades-old plumbing, floorboards settled. But this was different. This sound was deliberate, purposeful, coming from one specific location. The door. Ava opened her eyes but didn't move, didn't breathe, just listened. The sound stopped. 5 seconds of silence. 10. Long enough that she almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. Then it started again, slower this time, more methodical. Click, click. Someone was picking her lock. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard it hurt. Adrenaline flooded her system, the same chemical rush she got during code blues at the hospital, when someone was dying and every second mattered. And there was no time for fear, only action. But this wasn't the hospital. This was her home, and she was alone. Ava reached for her phone on the nightstand with trembling fingers. The screen's glow felt too bright in the darkness. She dialed 911 with shaking hands. The call connected. She saw the seconds ticking, but no sound came through. Just static, dead air. She tried again. Same result. Her phone had a full signal. Wi-Fi was connected. But the call wouldn't go through. Jammed, she thought with sudden, terrible clarity. Someone's jamming the signal. The clicking at the door grew more confident, faster. This wasn't some opportunistic burglar trying doors until one opened. This was professional. Trained, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The lock clicked one final time, a sound of metal surrendering, and the doorknob began to turn. Terror shot through Ava like ice water in her veins. She rolled out of bed as quietly as she could, grabbed the lamp from the nightstand. It was heavy, ceramic, solid enough to do damage, and pressed herself against the wall beside the door. Her nursing training kicked in. Assess the threat, protect yourself, call for help if possible, fight if necessary. The door cracked open, an inch, then 2. Through the gap, she saw a shadow lean in, a figure, average height, thin build, wearing dark clothing and moving with predatory purpose. Ava raised the lamp, muscles coiled, ready to swing with every ounce of strength she had. Step back. The voice came from the hallway, cold, final, a voice that expected instant obedience. The figure in her doorway froze. Then came the sound of violent impact, body hitting wall, hard enough that she heard the drywall crack. A grunt of pain, the metallic snap of handcuffs clicking shut. Then absolute silence. Ava couldn't move, couldn't process what had just happened. The door swung fully open. Liam Romano stood in her doorway, half lit by the emergency lights in the hallway. He wasn't wearing his jacket anymore, just a dark t-shirt and jeans, like he'd been pulled from sleep but had somehow known to be ready. Behind him, 2 of his guards had a man pinned face down on the hallway carpet. The man was thin, wiry, dressed in all black tactical gear. Professional equipment hung from his belt, lockpicks, what looked like a signal jammer. Other tools Ava couldn't identify. Liam's eyes found hers immediately, scanning her from head to toe in one swift assessment. "Are you hurt?" His voice was quieter now, controlled but urgent. Ava shook her head. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. The lamp was still raised in her hands, her knuckles white from gripping it. Liam stepped inside carefully, moving like someone approaching a frightened animal. He reached out slowly and gently lowered the lamp. "It's over. You're secure now." Ava's knees buckled. She caught herself on the edge of the counter, lamp clattering to the floor. Her whole body was shaking, not from cold, from delayed shock, from the sudden, overwhelming realization that if Liam hadn't been there, if his men hadn't been watching, that man would be inside her apartment right now. "Who was that?" Her voice came out as a whisper. What did he want? Liam glanced back at the man on the floor. One of the guards was already on his phone, speaking in low, clipped tones to someone. The other guard was searching the intruder, pulling items from his pockets and photographing them with practiced efficiency. "Someone who made a very bad decision," Liam said. "That's not an answer." Ava's fear was hardening into anger now. "Someone just broke into my apartment with professional equipment in the middle of the night, and you're standing here giving me non-answers like this is normal." Liam's jaw tightened. For the first time since she'd met him, something genuine flickered behind his eyes. Concern, guilt, maybe both. "You're right," he said quietly. "You deserve better than that. But right now I need you to pack a bag." "What?" "You can't stay in this apartment tonight." "I'm not going anywhere." "Ava." He said her name like an anchor, like something to hold on to. "Someone just bypassed building security with professional equipment. They jammed your phone signal. They knew exactly where you were, exactly when you'd be alone, and exactly how to get through a standard lock. This wasn't random." Ice flooded her veins. "What do you mean it wasn't random?" "I mean they were targeting this specific apartment, this specific door." Liam's voice was steady, but his eyes were intense. "Which means you're not safe here, not tonight, not until we know more." "Know more about what?" "About why someone thinks you're worth breaking in to find." The words landed like physical blows. Ava looked at the man on the hallway floor, at Liam, at the guards with their earpieces and their professional efficiency. And she understood. This wasn't about her. It had never been about her. This was about Liam, about whoever he was running from or fighting against, and she'd just become collateral damage in a war she didn't understand. "Pack a bag," Liam repeated, his voice gentler now. "Please, I have somewhere safe you can stay until we sort this out." Ava wanted to argue, wanted to call the police herself, demand answers, take back control of her life. But her hands were still shaking, her phone still wasn't working, and the man on the floor, the man who'd been seconds away from entering her apartment, was proof that Liam was right. She wasn't safe here. She might never be safe here again. 10 minutes, she said quietly. "I'll be ready in 10 minutes." Liam nodded. "I'll wait right here." And as Ava turned to throw essentials into her overnight bag, clothes, toiletries, her phone charger, the nursing license she kept in her nightstand, she caught a glimpse of Liam's expression in the reflection of her window. He wasn't looking at the intruder. He wasn't checking his phone or coordinating with his men. He was watching her. And his face held something she hadn't seen before. Not calculation, not cold assessment, fear, Real, genuine fear. Not fear of the man on the floor, fear for her. Liam's men moved with the kind of precision that only came from extensive training. One of them swept apartment 6C with a device that looked like a small tablet, checking for surveillance equipment or tracking devices. Another escorted Ava into the hallway with a gentle but firm hand on her shoulder. The third stayed with the intruder, who now sat with his back against the wall, handcuffed and silent, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. She was guided to apartment 6A, the unit that had been hers until yesterday, the unit Liam had taken from her. Now it was something entirely different from what she remembered. The layout was the same, but everything else had changed. The warm, lived-in feeling she'd created over 2 years, her throw pillows, her artwork, her carefully chosen furniture, all of it was gone. Replaced with cold functionality. Security monitors lined one entire wall, displaying live camera feeds from angles she didn't recognize. The hallway, the lobby, the parking garage, the loading dock, the stairwells, every entrance and exit, all visible at once. The furniture was minimal, expensive but impersonal. A black leather couch, a glass coffee table, no decorations, no personal touches. The kitchen counters were empty except for a coffee maker that looked like it cost more than her monthly rent. This wasn't a home. This was a command center, a fortress disguised as an apartment. Liam closed the door behind them and engaged 3 separate locks, heavy deadbolts that sank into the frame with solid metallic thuds. Then he moved to a small panel beside the door and entered a code. A 4th lock engaged, the magnetic system she'd seen being installed earlier. "Sit, please," he said, gesturing to the couch. "I'll stand." Ava's voice was steadier now. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by anger and confusion and a desperate need for answers. "Tell me what's happening right now. No more vague corporate speak. No more deflection. Someone just tried to break into my apartment with professional equipment, and you're acting like you expected it. So tell me why." Liam stood by the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the Boston skyline. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then he said quietly, "My family has adversaries." "That's not an explanation." He turned to face her. "It's the beginning of one. If you want the whole truth, you'll need to understand context." "Then give me context." Liam pulled off his jacket, a precise, controlled movement, and draped it over the back of a chair. When he spoke again, his voice was different, less guarded, more human. "My father built Romano Group from nothing. Started with one construction project in Southie 30 years ago. Grew it into what it is now: real estate, security consulting, investments. On paper, it's all legitimate, clean money, legal operations." "On paper," Ava repeated, catching the implication. The foundation wasn't always clean. Liam's jaw tightened. "My father made deals with people he shouldn't have made deals with. Accepted investments from sources he shouldn't have accepted. Built relationships in communities that operated outside the law." "Organized crime," Ava said flatly. "Yes." No deflection this time, just honesty. Not directly. Romano Group was never a criminal enterprise. But some of our early partners, some of our investors, some of the people who helped us get established, they had connections to organized crime families. Russian, Italian, Irish. My father believed in practical alliances over moral purity. Ava felt cold. And now I'm trying to change it. Liam's voice was firm, resolved. I took over operations 3 years ago when my father stepped back. Since then, I've been systematically cutting those connections, buying out questionable investors, severing partnerships with anyone who has criminal ties, making everything legitimately clean. That must make you popular, Ava said with bitter sarcasm. It makes me a target. Liam crossed his arms. People don't like losing territory, losing influence, losing money, and when someone walks away from the world, my father built relationships in. They don't just let you go. They test you, they pressure you, they look for leverage. The pieces started clicking together in Ava's mind. And I'm leverage. Your proximity, Liam corrected, but his voice was heavy with guilt. The people watching me, the Petrova family, Russian organized crime with extensive Boston operations. They've been surveilling Romano Group properties for 2 months. They know which buildings we own, which units have enhanced security, which locations matter. So they're watching this building? Yes. And anyone who lives near you becomes interesting to them? Potentially, yes. Liam moved away from the window, closer to her, but still maintaining respectful distance. That's why I moved into 6A. It's a corner unit, defensible, limited access points, good sight lines. I needed somewhere secure while we navigate this transition period. And you just decided my apartment was more important than my life. The accusation hung in the air. Liam didn't flinch from it. I made a calculated decision. Moving you to 6C was supposed to create separation. Distance, make you less visually connected to me. If you'd stayed in 6A, anyone surveilling this floor would have seen you as directly affiliated with me. But it didn't work, Ava said. No. Liam's voice was tight with frustration. They tracked you anyway, which means they're more interested than I anticipated. More aggressive. The man at your door tonight, he wasn't there to hurt you. He was there to gather information, plant surveillance equipment, find out who you are and whether you matter to me. Do I? The question came out before Ava could stop it. Liam looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her, not calculating, not assessing, just seeing her. You shouldn't, he said quietly. You're a civilian who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You should be a complete non-factor in all of this. But I'm not. No, because I pulled you into my world the moment I took your apartment. And now anyone watching me sees you as potentially significant. And in my world, potential significance is enough to make you a target. Ava wrapped her arms around herself. The apartment suddenly felt colder. So what happens now? Now you stay here, in this unit, where I can guarantee your security. For how long? Liam's silence was answer enough. It might be a very long time. Ava sank onto the edge of the couch, her legs suddenly unsteady. She'd woken up this morning thinking her biggest problem was a long shift and unpacking boxes. Now she was trapped in a stranger's apartment, hiding from Russian organized crime, because she'd been unlucky enough to live in the wrong unit. I should call the police, she said, but even as she said it, she knew how hollow it sounded. And tell them what? Liam's voice was gentle but realistic. That someone tried to break into your apartment but didn't succeed. That you feel unsafe. The police will file a report, maybe increase patrols. But they can't protect you 24 hours a day. They can't anticipate moves from people who operate in shadows. But you can. I have resources they don't, experience they don't. And a personal stake they definitely don't. Liam sat down across from her, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. I know how these people think, how they operate, what they're willing to do, and what lines they won't cross. And I know how to keep you alive until this situation resolves. Until you finish cutting your father's connections. Yes, which could take months, years, or weeks if things move quickly. Liam's expression was unreadable. But yes, it might take time. Ava closed her eyes, tried to process, tried to think through exhaustion and fear and disbelief. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I know. Liam's voice was heavy with guilt. And I'm sorry you lost your apartment. I'm sorry you're in danger because of proximity to me. I'm sorry I've disrupted your entire life. Are you really? Ava opened her eyes and looked at him. Or are you just sorry it's complicated? Liam held her gaze. Both. I regret that you're caught in this, but I don't regret taking the actions necessary to protect Romano Group's transition, even if those actions hurt innocent people in the short term. The honesty was almost worse than a lie would have been. At least you're not pretending to be a good person, Ava said bitterly. I'm not a good person, Liam agreed quietly. But I'm trying to be better than my father was. And right now, that means keeping you alive until the people watching me lose interest or find a different angle, whichever comes first. Ava looked around the apartment, at the monitors, the locks, the cold, impersonal space that was somehow safer than anywhere else she could go. I hate this, she said. I know. I hate you for doing this. I understand. But I don't have a choice, do I? Liam's expression softened with something that looked like regret. You always have a choice. You can leave. Go stay with friends. Leave Boston entirely. I'd understand if you did, but I can't guarantee your safety if you do. And that was the trap, wasn't it? The impossible choice. Stay and be protected by the man who'd upended her life, or leave and risk becoming a target in a war she didn't understand. I need to think, Ava said finally. Take your time. Liam stood, moved toward the bedroom. You can sleep in the bedroom. I'll take the couch. Tomorrow we'll discuss options. But tonight, just rest. You're secure here, I promise you that. As he walked away, Ava caught sight of one of the security monitors. It showed the 6th floor hallway. The man who'd tried to break into her apartment was being escorted out by 2 of Liam's guards, still handcuffed, and she realized something that made her blood run cold. The police hadn't been called. Liam was handling this himself, his own security, his own justice, his own rules. She really had left the normal world behind, and stepping back into it might be harder than she ever imagined. The first 4 days blurred together in a strange, surreal rhythm that felt nothing like Ava's normal life. She'd called in sick to work, the first time in 3 years, told her supervisor she had a family emergency and needed a few days. Her supervisor had been understanding, even concerned, which somehow made Ava feel worse about lying. But what was she supposed to say? Sorry, I can't come in because I'm hiding from Russian organized crime in my former apartment that was taken by a man whose father had mob connections. No one would believe that. She barely believed it herself. Guards brought her belongings from 6C throughout those first days. Clothes, toiletries, books, her laptop. They arranged everything carefully in the bedroom, treating her possessions with surprising respect. not just dumping boxes, but actually organizing things in ways that made sense. She slept in Liam's bed, or what she assumed was his bed, though she never saw him use it. The sheets smelled like expensive laundry detergent and something else. Cedar, maybe. Something clean and masculine and completely unfamiliar. Liam took the couch every night. She heard him moving through the apartment at odd hours, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., sometimes dawn, speaking in low tones on the phone, reviewing security feeds, managing some invisible network she couldn't see but could sense all around her. They didn't talk much those first days. He gave her space, respected her anger and confusion, left food in the kitchen, good food, not takeout, like someone was cooking actual meals and bringing them to the apartment. He never asked her how she was feeling, never tried to justify himself again, just existed in the same space, maintaining a careful distance. On the 5th morning, Ava woke to the smell of tea. Hot tea, not coffee. She sat up slowly, disoriented for a moment about where she was. Then memory flooded back, and her stomach clenched. She walked out to the living room. Liam stood in the kitchen, pouring 2 mugs from an electric kettle. He wore dark jeans and a gray Henley, casual, almost normal looking, though Ava noticed he still wore boots that looked tactical rather than fashionable. No jacket today, no earpiece. He looked human, tired even. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there 5 days ago. "You remembered," Ava said quietly. Liam glanced up. "You had tea at the hospital that first day I saw you, not coffee. I assumed that meant you preferred it." Ava blinked. "You noticed that?" "I noticed details. It's how I stay alive." He brought her a mug, white ceramic, simple, filled with tea that was exactly the right temperature and sweetness. "Habit from my father. He used to say information is currency. The more you notice about people, the better you understand them." "That sounds manipulative." "It is." Liam didn't deny it. "But it's also survival. In my world, missing details gets you killed." Ava took the mug, warmth spreading through her hands. She sat at the small dining table, glass top, modern chairs that were surprisingly comfortable. Liam sat across from her with his own mug. For a moment, they just sat in silence. Outside, Boston was waking up, the sounds filtering through even the expensive windows. Car horns, construction. The city's constant background hum. "I owe you a real explanation," Liam said finally. "Not just facts, context." Ava waited. "My father." Liam paused, choosing words carefully. "He was a complicated man, brilliant businessman, terrible human being. He built Romano Group through intelligence, ruthlessness, and strategic alliances that ignored moral boundaries. By the time I was old enough to understand what he'd done, the damage was already locked in. So you inherited his mess. I inherited his empire and his enemies and his debts, not financial debts, but relational ones. Promises he made, partnerships he formed, allegiances that came with expectations." Liam's voice was steady, but there was an edge of old pain beneath it. "I was 10 when I understood what protection really meant. 12 when I learned to identify threats. 16 when I made my first security plan for our family." Ava's chest tightened. "That's too young." "It was necessary. In my family, you grow up fast or you end up collateral damage." Liam took a slow sip of his tea. "My father believed power meant being untouchable. I believe power means being responsible. That's why I'm changing things, making Romano Group legitimate, breaking the connections he built. And the Petrovas don't like that. The Petrovas, the Morettis, the Sullivan crew, none of them like it. They all benefited from my father's approach, territory sharing, mutual arrangements. Blind eyes turned at convenient moments. Liam's jaw tightened. I'm ending all of that, which makes me dangerous to their operations and profitable to eliminate. Profitable, Ava repeated. They want to kill you for money? They want to kill me to send a message. To anyone else thinking about walking away from old arrangements. To anyone who believes you can leave this world once you're in it. Liam met her eyes. I'm proving you can, but it requires being smarter, better protected, and more ruthless than everyone trying to stop you. Ava studied him over her mug, really looked at him for the first time since this started. Not at the danger he represented, not at what he'd taken from her, just at the man sitting across from her, carrying a burden he'd inherited and trying to transform it into something better. Why are you telling me this? She asked quietly. Because you deserve the truth if you're living under this roof. And because... Liam hesitated, and it was the first time Ava had seen him uncertain about anything. Because you're handling this better than most people would. You're asking the right questions, staying rational even though you're terrified, and that matters. I'm a nurse, Ava said. I'm used to emergencies. This isn't an emergency. This is a sustained threat with no clear endpoint. Liam's voice was gentle but realistic. And the fact that you're still thinking clearly, still maintaining perspective, that takes strength most people don't have. The compliment caught Ava off guard. She wasn't sure how to respond. What happens next? She asked instead. Next, you decide what you want to do. Liam set his mug down. You can stay here, under my protection, where I can guarantee your physical safety, but not your freedom or your normal life. Or you can leave. I'll arrange relocation to another city if you want. New identity if necessary, protection during the transition, but you'd be on your own after that. Those are both terrible options. Yes, but they're the only ones I can offer. Ava looked around the apartment, at the monitors showing empty hallways, at the locks on the door, at the space that had become both sanctuary and prison. I need more time, she said finally. Take it. Liam stood, brought his mug to the sink. But Ava, the longer you stay, the more invested the Petrovas become, in finding out who you are and whether you matter to me. Every day you're here increases your importance in their calculations. Do I matter to you? The question hung between them, more vulnerable than Ava had meant it to be. Liam turned to face her, and for a moment his guard was completely down. You shouldn't, he said quietly, but you're starting to. And somehow that honesty, that raw, unfiltered admission, changed everything. 4 nights later, at 11:17 p.m., everything escalated. Ava was reading on the couch, a mystery novel she'd found on Liam's sparse bookshelf, when a sound made her freeze. A loud bang, deep, reverberating through the building's structure like someone had dropped something massive. The basement level. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. Liam appeared from the bedroom instantly, already moving, phone already out. Don't leave this apartment. What was that? Ava set her book down, pulse jumping. I'm finding out right now. His voice was controlled but tight. He moved to the security monitors, fingers flying across a tablet interface. Stay away from the windows. Lock the bedroom door behind me. Liam. He paused at the door, looked back at her, really looked at her. And she saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Genuine worry mixed with something darker. Preparation. Like he'd known this moment was coming and had been waiting for it. "Whatever happens," he said carefully, "you stay in this apartment. You don't open the door for anyone except me or Marco, you understand?" "Yes." He nodded once and was gone. Ava heard the locks disengaging, the door closing, the locks re-engaging from outside. He had some way to control them remotely. She was sealed in. For a moment, she just stood there, heart racing, not sure what to do. Then training kicked in. She moved to the bedroom, grabbed her phone, checked for signal. Full bars, working. She could call 911 if she needed to. But Liam had told her not to, had told her to wait for him. But what if he doesn't come back? The thought struck her like ice water. She moved to the security monitors in the living room. Figured out how to cycle through camera feeds. Most showed empty hallways, dark stairwells, the quiet lobby. One camera showed the basement parking garage. Her breath caught. 2 men in dark clothing, not Liam's guards, different body language, different purpose, had Marco pinned near the stairwell. He was holding them off but barely, using a concrete pillar for cover. As Ava watched, frozen, the elevator shaft on the monitor flickered with movement. Liam appeared, moving with brutal efficiency. No hesitation, no wasted motion, just controlled force and precision timing. The confrontation lasted maybe 20 seconds. Ava couldn't hear what was happening, but she saw bodies moving, saw one of the men go down, saw Marco break free and flank from the other side. Then Liam was pulling Marco back toward the elevator, and they were both moving fast, and the 2 men were staying down. Ava looked away from the screen, chest heaving, hands shaking. This was real. This was actually happening. This wasn't some corporate espionage or surveillance game. This was violence, real violence, the kind that left people bleeding. 3 minutes later, 3 of the longest minutes of Ava's life, she heard the locks disengaging. The door opened. Liam stepped through, and there was blood on his wrist. Not a lot, just a dark stain spreading across his sleeve, but enough to be visible. Marco was behind him, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid fire to someone in tones too low for Ava to hear. Liam pulled the door shut and re-engaged all the locks with sharp, precise movements. Then he turned to Ava. "They escalated," he said simply. "I saw." Her voice shook. "On the monitors. Are you hurt?" "Grazed. Nothing serious." He moved past her toward the kitchen sink, running cold water over his wrist. Blood swirled down the drain, diluting to pink. They sent people to the building, not to surveil, to engage. To do what? Liam didn't answer right away. He pulled off his shirt, the sleeve was torn and bloody, and assessed the wound on his wrist. It was shallow but long. It needed cleaning, probably stitches. "Let me see." Ava moved on instinct, switching into nurse mode. "Sit down." "Ava, I'm fine." "Sit down." Her voice had the authority of 6 years working emergency rooms. "I'm a nurse. Let me assess it properly." Liam sat. Ava found a first aid kit under the sink. Extensive, professional grade, the kind used by medics, and cleaned the wound with practiced efficiency. It was definitely a graze, probably from a knife, given the clean edges. It would scar, but it wouldn't cause permanent damage. "You need stitches," she said quietly. "At least 5. I'll have someone come by tomorrow. I can do it now." Ava looked at him. "I've done hundreds of sutures. I have everything I need in this kit. Unless you'd rather wait and risk infection. Liam held her gaze, then nodded. Okay. As Ava worked, cleaning, numbing, stitching with small, precise movements, Liam spoke quietly. They wanted to send a message that they could reach me, that my security isn't as good as I think it is, that anyone near me is vulnerable. They're talking about me, Ava said, not looking up from her work. Yes. What does that mean? Liam was silent for a moment. It means they're confirming you matter, whether you actually do or not. They've decided you're worth targeting to get to me. Ava tied off the last stitch, bandaged the wound with gauze and medical tape. Why does it matter so much? Why do you care what happens to me? We don't even know each other. Liam looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression cracked. Because I brought this to your door, he said quietly. Without asking, without warning, without giving you any choice. You were a civilian living your life, working hard, minding your own business. And I turned you into a target because I needed your apartment and didn't think through the consequences. So this is guilt. This is responsibility. His voice was raw now, real. You didn't choose this. I chose it for you. That makes you my responsibility. And in my world, you protect what's yours, no matter what it costs. I'm not yours, Ava said, but her voice was quiet. No, but you're under my roof, which means you're under my protection, and that's not negotiable. Marco appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. Buildings secure. The 2 downstairs have been removed. We've identified them, Petrova contractors, as expected. Where are they now? Being questioned. They'll be released with appropriate warnings after we extract whatever information we can. Ava's stomach turned. Released where? You're not calling the police. No, Liam said simply. The police can't help with this. So you're just handling it yourself. Yes. The casual admission of operating outside the law should have terrified her, should have sent her running for the door. But Ava just felt tired, overwhelmed, caught in something so far beyond her experience that she couldn't even process it properly. Marco moved to the monitors, checking feeds with professional efficiency. I'm recommending we relocate her. This location is compromised. No, Liam said immediately. She stays here, double the perimeter security. I want someone on visual at all times, no gaps. Liam, if they're willing to engage directly, she stays. His voice left no room for argument. This is the most secure location we have. Moving her creates vulnerability during transport. We hold position and improve defenses. Marco didn't look happy, but he nodded. I'll implement the upgrades, but I'm going on record saying this is a risk. Noted. Marco left, pulling the door shut behind him. Silence fell over the apartment. Ava stood there, medical tape still in her hands, trying to process what had just happened. Someone had attacked the building. Liam had fought them. Marco had removed them, wherever that meant. And she was still here, trapped in an apartment with a man who operated by his own rules and protected his interests with violence when necessary. Liam stood slowly, testing his bandaged wrist. Thank you for the stitches. I'm a nurse, Ava said automatically. It's what I do. Still, thank you. They stood there for a moment, too close in the small kitchen, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down between them. I should go to bed, Ava said finally. Ava, wait! Liam's voice stopped her. I can't promise this will end quickly. I can't promise you'll be able to go back to normal anytime soon, but I can promise I'll keep you protected, whatever it takes, no matter what comes." Ava looked at him, at the blood on his discarded shirt, at the bandage on his wrist, at the exhaustion in his eyes. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why does it matter so much to you?" Liam was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because you're not supposed to be part of this world. And the fact that I dragged you into it anyway, that's on me, and I don't walk away from my mistakes." It wasn't the answer Ava had expected, not a declaration of feelings, not some romantic justification, just accountability, responsibility. A man trying to fix what he'd broken, and somehow that mattered more than anything else could have. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay? I'll stay, for now, until we figure this out." Liam's expression shifted. Relief, gratitude, something deeper she couldn't identify yet. "Thank you." Ava nodded and walked to the bedroom, closing the door behind her. As she lay in bed, still smelling cedar and expensive laundry detergent, she heard Liam moving through the apartment, checking locks, monitoring feeds, standing watch. And despite everything, the fear, the anger, the complete disruption of her life, she felt something she hadn't felt in days. Not safe, not exactly, but protected by someone who saw her as more than collateral, more than leverage, more than an inconvenience. Someone who'd taken responsibility for her safety and meant it. That, Ava thought, as sleep finally pulled her under, might be the beginning of something she hadn't expected. Something that felt dangerously close to trust. The apartment fell quiet. Ava sat in the living room, still processing the gunshot echoes, the blood, the reality of Liam's world. Liam knelt in front of her. It was the first time she'd seen him at this level. Not commanding, not directing, just present. Human. His voice dropped low, gentle. "Ava." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I'm not asking you to trust me completely, but I promise no one will hurt you while I'm here." She met his eyes. "Why do you care this much? We barely know each other." Liam took a slow breath, as if the words cost him something. "The first day I saw you in that hallway." He held her gaze. "You weren't intimidated. You were angry. You stood your ground. That's not something I encounter often. It's not something I can manufacture or control, and it matters." The honesty in his voice hit her harder than any explanation. Ava's throat tightened. "I should pack my things and leave Boston, start over somewhere your world can't reach." "You should," Liam agreed. "That would be the smart choice." "But I don't want to leave." The admission surprised them both. Liam's expression shifted, relief mingled with something deeper. "Then don't." "That's simple? Nothing about this is simple." He stood slowly, helped her to her feet. "But you can stay here as long as you need, no conditions." "And the Petrovas?" "They'll learn there are lines that shouldn't be crossed." His voice carried quiet finality. "This ends soon, one way or another." Marco appeared at the door, closed it, and gauged the locks with careful precision, one bolt, then two, then three. Liam checked each lock himself, his movements deliberate, each click a promise. "You're protected here." He turned back to Ava. "Here, for now, or longer, whatever you decide." Ava looked around the apartment, at the monitors, the locks, the space that had transformed from prison to sanctuary. "Okay," she whispered, "I'll stay." "You're sure?" "No." She managed a small smile. "But I'm choosing it anyway." Relief washed over Liam's features. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Ava's smile grew slightly. You might regret this arrangement. I doubt that very much. They stood there for a moment, two people who should never have crossed paths, bound together by circumstance and something else, something that felt like the beginning of trust. Outside, the city hummed with life, sirens wailed, the world continued turning. But inside apartment 6A, something new took root. Not love, not yet, but possibility. The understanding that sometimes home isn't a place. It's a person who stands between you and the storm, who sees your fear and doesn't ask you to hide it, who offers safety not as a cage, but as a choice. Liam dimmed the lights. Get some rest. Tomorrow we discuss next steps. Ava settled onto the couch with a blanket Marco had brought from her old apartment, the one that still carried the scent of her life before all this. As sleep pulled her under, she heard Liam moving quietly through the apartment, checking locks, monitoring screens, standing watch. And for the first time in days, Ava felt something unexpected. Not just safety, peace, the kind that comes from knowing someone chose to stand with you. Not because they had to, not because of obligation, but because in a world of transactions and power plays, sometimes the most motivational thing is simply this: being seen, being valued, being worth protecting. That, she thought as consciousness faded, might be the beginning of something real, something worth the risk. Sometimes the most inspirational stories are the ones where love grows in unexpected places, where protection becomes partnership, and the person who disrupts your life becomes the one you can't imagine living without. This romance wasn't built on wealth or power or grand gestures. It was built on honesty, accountability, and the quiet courage it takes to stay when every instinct says run. If this story reminded you that second chances are real, that trust can be earned even in impossible situations, and that home is sometimes a person who refuses to let you face the darkness alone, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep finding these stories of hard-won trust, quiet strength, and the kind of love that sees your worth and fights to protect it. Thank you for spending this hour with me tonight. Sleep well, knowing that somewhere out there, love is still possible, even in the most unexpected places, even when it starts with loss, even when it requires the motivational courage to choose trust over fear. Until tomorrow night, rest easy, and remember, true safety isn't just about locks and walls. It's about someone who sees you, values you, and promises to stand with you no matter what comes next. Sweet dreams, and see you tomorrow.